Welcome to VNT. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. As of late September 2025, the world is witnessing a dramatic realignment of traditional partnerships as the global order is shaken by a new wave of economic uncertainty and shifting alliances. This upheaval has been triggered by President Donald Trump's aggressive trade policies in his second term, which have sent shockwaves through international markets and diplomatic circles alike. Long-standing allies now face sudden tariffs and unpredictable U.S. maneuvers, forcing them to seek new, more reliable alliances and fundamentally altering the global economic map. The ripple effects are being felt in boardrooms, parliaments, and households around the world. At the center of this turmoil are the U.S. and its closest partners, especially Canada and the European Union, now locked in a cycle of tariffs and retaliation. Once stable relationships are being tested as never before. Ireland, with deep ties to the US, is making a decisive pivot, strengthening its economic and political bonds with Canada, signaling a move away from reliance on America. This marks a significant shift in Ireland's foreign policy and economic strategy. This shift is part of a broader trend. Nations are building new coalitions to counteract Washington's unpredictability and safeguard their futures, forging partnerships that may reshape the balance of power for years to come. This essay will trace the step-by-step developments of this conflict, from the initial tariffs to the diplomatic fallout, examining how each move has escalated tensions and redrawn alliances. We'll also explore the consequences for American businesses and citizens, as the effects of these policies ripple through the economy, impacting jobs, prices, and the everyday lives of millions. President Trump's sweeping tariffs are the centerpiece of his second-term economic strategy, a bold gamble to revitalize American industry. He argues that the U.S. has been exploited by unfair trade practices, and tariffs are his tool to level the playing field and bring jobs back home. In August 2025, new tariffs on over 90 countries took effect, with Trump celebrating billions flowing into the U.S. Treasury. The president's anger targets specific trade relationships, especially the EU and Canada, linking trade to broader political and security issues. For Trump, tariffs are leverage, his primary tool for demanding compliance and reshaping global trade. He promises to match any retaliatory tariff, leaving little room for negotiation and forcing allies to react on his terms. This high-stakes bet on economic nationalism defines his approach, but it's a strategy that's rapidly reshaping America's global relationships. The Trump administration's aggressive tariffs were met with swift, unified retaliation from Canada and the European Union. In March 2025, Canada imposed reciprocal tariffs on $21 billion of American goods, targeting key U.S. industries. The EU followed suit, unveiling tariffs on $28 billion of American exports, including iconic products from Trump-aligned states. These moves were designed to inflict economic pain and send a clear political message to the president's base. Canadian and European leaders blamed Trump's policies for rising costs, insisting American consumers would ultimately pay the price. EU officials framed their response as a defense of the rules-based international order, with calls for Europe to step up as a global leader. This united front marked a turning point, amplifying their collective leverage and forging stronger bonds between America's closest allies. Rather than isolating adversaries, Trump's actions pushed historic friends to coordinate against the U.S., reshaping the global balance. Ireland, caught between its deep-rooted U.S. ties and its obligations as a member of the European Union, found itself in a precarious position. Mounting uncertainty grew as Trump's tariffs took hold, and his administration's criticism of U.S. companies relocating to Ireland intensified, casting a shadow over the once stable transatlantic relationship. Irish policymakers faced tough questions about the future of their economic strategy and global partnerships. During St. Patrick's Day 2025, a moment usually reserved for celebrating Irish-American friendship, Irish leaders made headlines by publicly rebuking U.S. protectionism. They emphasized the urgent need for free, fair, and open trade, signaling to the world that Ireland was ready to chart a new course in its international relationships. This marked the beginning of a deliberate and strategic pivot. Ireland started to actively strengthen both economic and political ties with Canada, a partner seen as more stable, predictable, and aligned with Ireland's values in the current global climate. The foundation for this new alliance is the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement between Canada and the EU. This agreement offers a robust and stable framework for trade, free from the disruptions and unpredictability that have come to define U.S. policy in recent years. By prioritizing its relationship with Canada, Ireland is seeking not just new markets, but also security and stability in an increasingly volatile and uncertain world. This move is about future-proofing the Irish economy. Ireland's pivot is a powerful symbol of the broader consequences of Trump's trade war, demonstrating that even America's closest and most loyal partners are now looking elsewhere for dependable alliances and economic certainty. Ireland's decision is pragmatic, not hostile. It's a necessary and forward-thinking step to protect its economic interests and ensure prosperity for its people in a rapidly changing world. The so-called Shamrock Shakeup signals a fundamental shift in global alliances, where reliability and shared values now trump old loyalties, and nations like Ireland are leading the way in redefining what partnership means in the 21st century. President Trump's social media posts have escalated diplomatic tensions, turning policy disputes into personal affronts. In March 2025, he suggested Canada should become the 51st state, dismissing the US-Canada border as artificial, an insult that sparked outrage in Canada. Canadian officials, led by Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly, swiftly rejected the notion, reaffirming their sovereignty and independence. The incident showed how Trump's off-the-cuff remarks could create diplomatic crises beyond economic issues, deepening the rift with America's closest ally. Instead of projecting strength, the president's words further isolated the U.S. and reinforced Canada's resolve to seek new partnerships. As the trade war rages, its effects are rippling through the U.S. economy, impacting businesses and consumers alike. Some domestic producers, like those in steel, welcome the tariffs, hoping for job growth and local investment. But for many others, especially small businesses relying on imported materials, costs are rising sharply, squeezing profit margins and threatening jobs. Manufacturers face a tough choice: absorb higher costs or pass them to consumers, risking competitiveness. Retaliatory tariffs from Canada and the EU make it harder for U.S. exporters to sell abroad, threatening jobs in key sectors. American consumers are already seeing higher prices on everything from appliances to food, with economists warning of renewed inflation. The political fallout is growing, as opponents highlight the real-world costs of protectionism for working families. The price of Trump's trade war is measured not just in dollars, but in public discontent and economic uncertainty.
Trump's tariffs have brought the U.S. to a crossroads, fundamentally reshaping its relationships with longtime allies and partners around the world. These policies, intended to protect American industries, have instead triggered a wave of uncertainty and recalibration among nations that once relied on the stability of U.S. leadership. Ireland's pivot to Canada is a symbol of a larger trend. Nations are building new networks of cooperation, seeking the predictability and trust that the U.S. no longer consistently provides. As these countries forge fresh alliances, they are also diversifying their economic and diplomatic ties, reducing their dependence on American markets and policies. This shift threatens America's influence and prosperity, as the global alliance system fractures and U.S. businesses face new barriers to trade and investment. The ripple effects are being felt across industries, from manufacturing to technology, as companies struggle to adapt to a rapidly changing international landscape. Allies like Canada, Ireland, and the EU are forming a more cohesive bloc, strengthening their own partnerships and leaving the U.S. increasingly isolated on the world stage. These new alliances are not just economic, they are also political, shaping the future of global governance. The America First strategy, meant to strengthen the nation, risks marginalizing it in a world where trust, reliability, and collaboration are key to progress. As other countries move forward together, the U.S. faces the danger of being left behind. Decades of goodwill and carefully built alliances can be eroded quickly by unilateral actions and inflammatory rhetoric. The consequences of these choices may last for generations, affecting not just governments but ordinary people and businesses. The future of America's global partnerships depends on choices made in Washington, whether to continue down the path of confrontation or to repair fractured relationships and reclaim a position of leadership and trust in the world. The world is watching, and America's allies are already preparing for a future that may not include the US at its center. The decisions made today will shape not only America's role, but the very fabric of the international order for years to come.